This is Coda Radio, episode 238 for January 5th, 2017. Happy New Year and welcome to Coda Radio, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show taking a pragmatic look at the art and business of software development and related technologies. This episode's brought to you by our two fine sponsors, DigitalOcean and Linux Academy. I'll tell you more about those great sponsors as this here show goes on. My name is Chris, and joining us every single week, sick or not, pneumonia or not, it's Mr. Michael Dominic. Hello, Mike.
Children are disease vectors.
No one tells you this. Like, they're going to tell you, oh, it's going to be challenging, oh, the teenage years, the terrible twos, the terrible threes, whatever. They don't tell you that these things are walking germ magnets. And
Patient zero.
And if you send them to daycare or school, It gets 10 times worse. It gets 10 times worse. So I love my kids. In fact, today is my little girl Abby's birthday. Happy birthday, Abby. So I love my kids.
Happy birthday, Abby.
It's worth it every time, except for I happen to be in a profession where when I start coughing and losing my voice, it's bad. It's bad. It's bad. It's just a pain in the butt. But Mr. Dominic, I guess you actually, you were pretty bad on Monday. So we decided not to do the show because you were like probably, I don't know, just a few hours out of bed max on Monday. You must be pretty sick if you went to the doctor recently and they diagnosed you with pneumonia.
Yeah, I went this morning. I thought, oh, it's a cold. I just lost my voice. I'll be fine. And I did not sleep at all last night. So this should be a fun show.
Yeah. Oh my, you and I both.
We went to the doctor and she's like, yeah, you have pneumonia.
Oh. Wow, I'm impressed because you still had time to write down your 3 tech wishes for 2017.
I had lots of time when you were up all night coughing, man.
Yeah, you can't really do anything else, right? Yeah, I hear that. So, I got it right here in my hot little hands. Michael Dominic's 3 tech wishes. It is that time of year, isn't it?
It is. It's time to make a wish.
So I like this one because it's one that we kind of have forgotten over the years, but this first one is Google account management. Dealing with frickin' multiple Google accounts. And when you have like a business account and a personal account, it is a constant pain.
Yeah, it's made more painful too by the Google Home doesn't
and Google
allow
Assistant,
that at all.
Yeah.
It's been a long time coming, and it's kind of weird that they haven't done this yet. But what I propose in that blog piece is some sort of like vanity account system, where instead of, client co giving you an email address, chris@clientco.com, they could just add a vanity email that just forwards to yours. But any email sent from your email that was originally replying to an email from the client co email would actually just say, Chris@clientco, not Chris at Jupiter Broadcasting. Now, that doesn't exist. I would like that to exist.
Uh-huh.
But so far, no. If you have multiple accounts, you're kind of in hell.
Now, I don't understand this next one. Reactive programming hype. You want more hype?
No, I want less.
Oh, okay. It sounds like you're wishing for more hype.
No.
Yeah, a lot has been made of reactive programming in 2016. There's definitely some fire to the smoke, but things are getting way too hyped. Uh-oh, is it starting to set off red lights for you? Back off. The fire's getting hot.
Well, it's getting the solution to every problem kind of thing. How can I put this? I mean, I'm reading a lot of like RFPs, a lot of, I'll be honest, like just listening to other podcasts and reading blogs, React solving problems I didn't have, right? and the main problem you're trying to solve is like, oh, bad, being sloppy ends up with sloppy code. But like reactive programming doesn't fix that for you. And it's not super appropriate for every problem, but it's one of those over application things. I mean, we saw this a lot too with, when like Scala was getting big a couple years ago in functional programming, people were trying to make everything functional. And, reactive is kind of a reactive programming, not necessarily React.js, right? So there's 2 different things here, are going down that same path. Buzzword bingo, baby.
Hey, I like it. So now let's talk Docker. How do you think Docker is going to shape out in 2017, and what would you like to see?
I'm a little concerned about Docker.
Yeah.
I use Docker a lot in production, and I use it for what its original use case was, 2.5 years ago when they were on the show, when they were just like a little project to deploy web applications. But it seems like they're going in like 8 different directions with all this, enterprise, big data. Like they're trying to just really, I don't know, almost like SEO optimize their way to glory. I'm half kidding on that. But,
that's a good way.
If there's a trend and it's server side, Docker is on it, which kind of worries me, right? I feel like they need to focus up a little bit on their core competence.
Really, it feels like to me that software distribution, if you just focused in on that universal software distribution across Windows, Linux, and Mac OS, and when I say Linux, I mean all the Linuxes that have a modern kernel. And when I say Mac OS, I mean like the last 2 or 3 versions. And when I say Windows, a couple different server versions. Like it's a wide range. Like you could just own that. Now, what they want to do instead, though, is they want to solve the other problem that Docker brings along with it, and that's management, especially when you start spinning up lots of containers. And I've always felt like what would have been great and what was sort of happening kind of early in Docker's life, let the third-party VAR market solve the management problem. And the reason I say that is I went to ContainerCon 2015 and LinuxCon 2016, and containerization was very, 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 very big there, obviously at ContainerCon. And the whole ecosystem was around managing containers, assuming that Docker was going to provide the core technology, and then there would be an entire layer of industry, your flavor of choice to manage Docker containers. That still exists, but really it exists in spite of the fact that Docker is consuming all of that functionality in the project itself, which requires a way different sets of focuses. And then, of course, they're trying to appeal to different sets of enterprise customers instead of just focusing on a fundamental problem that's plagued us for the last 30 years, and that is reliably and predictably distributing software. That's what developers want. I want to be able to build it here and know it's going to run exactly the same environment, exactly the same way there.
Yeah, and this might be a little too curmudgeonly of me, but I don't like that Docker now goes and competes with its own vendors, right?
Exactly.
One of the original opportunities I saw with Docker was to be able to then sell people management services on top of it, right? On a monthly or quarterly
retainer. Exactly. Yes, absolutely.
But really, what enterprise in their right mind would buy them from a small company when you could just, have the small company do your development, do it in Docker, and then have Docker do that for you?
Also, think about onboarding new software. If you already have a
Right.
big Docker container environment, you have the contractors create the software in a Docker container, and then it's easy to deploy in your environment. There are policies and practices you need to put in place to keep those container environments secure and patched. But there's space for other vendors or for IT shops to roll their own with the tools. So it's just not. I think the problem with Docker is that it's that it was one of those companies when there really was a so something that kind of happened in 2016 that you kind of talked about 2 weeks ago, but I don't remember, where you said how Silicon Valley successfully, for the most part, deflated their own bubble. It was like with all the
Yes.
VC funding, it was building and building
Yes.
and building. Right? Docker got on that. Docker was funded during the real ramp up, right? During the hockey stick portion of that bubble.
Yeah.
And so Docker has all of these constraints placed on them. And maybe instead of constraints, I should say expectations. They have all these expectations placed on them by their investors. And it's a lot of
Well, it's
money.
not just that. Now they have a lot of competition.
And partners too.
Right? But they're not the only game in town anymore. They are the Kleenex to containerization. I still think they're usually the best choice for most things that at least that I do, right? Deploying web applications.
Yeah, and it's helpful that it's a brand name that people might recognize when you're talking about using it.
It's easy to go on a Skype call and talk about Docker, right?
Yeah.
It's really hard for me to talk about containerization in the abstract because, the IT manager wants to buy Docker, basically. So where do they go, Chris? I mean, this is, I feel like the Docker one is probably the one I'm least likely to get on that list.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because the React hype is going to burn itself out eventually. The Google account management, if someone at Google hasn't noticed this problem yet, I will eat my hat. But Docker, Docker needs to, like, as you were saying, justify those valuations.
Yeah,
Their investors need to come out, without taking a haircut. So how, where's the growth for them?
Yeah, I don't really see them. I don't really see them so much as correcting the direction of the ship so much as onboarding more staff to be able to try to satiate all of the different markets they've now entered.
That's what I was thinking. That they just get a big sales operation.
Yeah, and it's that's questionable what direction that'll go. That's going to come down to the people that are making decisions and running things. Well, that's just that we'll have to wait and see.
Well, you know who did that as well that I didn't mention in this post? GitHub.
Yeah.
Remember they had that big push in 2016 to the enterprise, and how did they do? They just hired a big old enterprise sales force.
Yeah, didn't get. I thought I just read too, like last week, GitHub layoffs or something. Like there was some sort of announcement though.
They laid off a bunch of them too.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, December 8th, GitHub cut sales staff. So they,
in a lot of ways,
they did an overhaul in February, and then they just cut staff in December 8th. Sorry, go ahead.
In a lot of ways, I feel like the GitHub Docker situation is kind of the same core problem, though obviously very different technologies. Mm-hmm. Where they have this great open source platform, open source tooling that developers love and techies love, but then they have to like make money.
Yeah.
And, for whatever reason, I'm not, the best enterprise sales guy, so I don't know. But for whatever reason, they both seem to really be struggling. I would actually say GitHub more than Docker, probably, in making that transition to profitability without kind of screwing over their customers. Though to GitHub's credit, the pricing restructuring they did on organization accounts and individual accounts to be more like Bitbucket was a great plan, because paying per repo is just stupid. I mean, that's just, why would you do that? I'm sorry, but
yeah. Oh gosh, was that in 2016 when they made that change?
It was this year, yeah. Last year, rather. Yeah,
wow. I did not realize that. That's longer ago.
If we covered GitHub more closely, there is an entire kind of like story arc of GitHub in 2016, right? In the end of 2015, beginning of 2016, they were really like balls out. They wanted to go enterprise. Mm-hmm. I listened to a bunch of .NET podcasts, which I may have to confess something to you shortly.
Oh no. Oh boy.
That they were sending guys out to, I think it was like .NET Rocks and a bunch of those kind of places, really saying, hey, GitHub works in the enterprise too, which it does. I've done it. I used to sell something for it. But I'll have to find it for the show notes. I think it was like Bloomberg had it. There was some sort of leaked thing or anonymous source where their enterprise sales numbers just did not hit expectations. And that makes sense, right? Because someone in the chat's mentioning GitLab.
Yeah,
GitLab's awesome,
right? People are just doing that in the enterprise.
I prefer Bitbucket. I mean, I prefer GitHub to Bitbucket, but since I love Jira, in fact, I think I'm in love with Jira. I'm having a sexual relationship with Jira, Chris.
Oh, interesting. That sounds fulfilling.
Well, the problem with Jira is everything's a high priority ticket for Jira.
That
but
gets
really, that
annoying after a
integration,
while.
it gets very annoying. But that integration where GitHub, they've been adding those kind of project management functionalities over this year, but they just didn't make the sales according to, I think it is Bloomberg.
Oh yeah, look at that. So here's the question. Do you suppose that this is just for GitHub, I try not to say GitLab, for GitHub, do you suppose this is now been corrected, that they're shipshape, good to sail, 5x5, ready to broadcast, and 2017 is a good year? Or do you go the way the chat room goes and think it's an indication of a downturn and that they're going to be on a slide for a bit? Not saying it's the end of the world.
I think both of them are going to be fine, right? Nobody's, unfortunately, I don't know what the numbers on their valuations are because I didn't do that research. The biggest threat to either of them, in my opinion, again, I'm not close to the situation at all, would be that they can't hit investor expectations.
Yep, I agree. That would be my assessment too. So we have a link to Mr. Dominic's post where he goes into more deets and on his blog, and you can find that in our show notes over at the Coder Radio program. Hey, Mike, before we go on, I wanted to mention something really cool that's being put on by the Linux Academy folks. So the people behind it are really great. And they wanted us to talk about scaleyourcode.com, where you can learn from successful developers and engineers that have built huge infrastructures like Jeff Atwood, who co-founded Stack Exchange. He's one of the folks that they interview. You can see how experts run their platforms and get inside looks at companies and how they grow their infrastructure, and they've solved some of their more difficult scaling problems. So this is something I think that could be really fascinating if it's not just maybe also the perfect opportunity to get kind of a podcast-like style interview. They have videos online you can check out, so I think it'd be perfect for our audience. Check it out at scaleyourcode.com. And I think this is a great chance to really get directly from the folks. I'm over on their scaleyourcode.com/interviews page, and they have building APIs, the cloud and elements way, JavaScript and its role in artificial intelligence, AR and VR. Heyo, building data analytics engine on AWS. Now, hold on. I want to know more about the AR one. So you go into the page here. And they have a little bit about the person they interview here, which I think is really nice. So you just recap who this person is with a picture of them. Then you give you a description of the talk. And then there it is embedded down below. So check it out. Go to scaleyourcode.com. Learn from renowned engineers and get a little insight into their company cultures, as well as experts from Google, Etsy, Heroku, Shopify, Docker as well, speaking of Docker. So lots of really interesting people. And Jeremy Edgeberg, who was the chief architect at Reddit, and also the founding member of Netflix's first site reliability engineering team over there. ScaleYourCode.com, being run by the folks at Linux Academy, so you know it's got a really great team behind it. ScaleYourCode.com, go there and check it out. It's something new, and it looks like they've put a ton of work into it with some incredible resources and interviews. ScaleYourCode.com, and thanks to Scale Your Code for sponsoring Coder Radio program. All right, Mr. Dominic. I thought this was a great title because I've experienced this from my end of the industry where I feel like I see some of the biggest disastrous things created by folks that I know to be extremely intelligent, rational, sane people. And so when this article got posted in the show notes, how terrible code gets written by perfectly sane people. When I found out I would be working on porting an old Python code base to Node, I was slightly excited. These kinds of projects always give you more creative freedom than the ordinary code maintenance gig. And something about the challenge of rewriting other people's code made it fun as hell. Well, now, what did you grok from this? Did you take something away from this that you wanted to share with the class? I thought it was interesting to have a little discussion here about bad habits, too, but that was what I got.
So much away. I mean, there was a vigorous discussion about this article, too.
Oh, really? I totally missed it. Probably the holidays.
No, I had a vigorous discussion with a developer who's sitting next to me. So I read this all as a function of resources, right?
Okay.
My initial reading, which I think is wrong and not detailed enough, which was his criticism, is that basically if the expectations are set too high or the budget's too low, or God forbid the project is a fixed bid. By the way, Chris, no fixed bids in 2017. I stopped him about halfway through 2016. Best thing I ever did. We can talk about that later if you want.
Hallelujah.
It it sets you up for failure, right? And not just a fixed bid, but an estimate that's too low. And come on, listeners know the sales guy goes out, closes a contract, sets the expectation, says what he needs to say to get the sale, and he sold them a rocket ship for like $1.50. And now your manager's trying to get you to hit that budget.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm exaggerating here.
Yeah, I get what you mean, though.
That is a thing I got from it. The other thing I got, and I'll pass it to you after this, was there's a passage in there about talent and hiring good people versus bad people. And at first, I didn't really like it because it read to me as that whole 10x developer thing again. But I think there is a point in utilizing people to the best of their unique talents in a way that makes sense. Let me give you, because I know that was convoluted. There are lots of front-end web developers who are awesome at design. So maybe it's good to give them work that's a lot like doing front-end design implementation, right? There are lots of back-end developers who are really, really good with algorithms and efficiency and networking and all that stuff, but couldn't design their way out of a paperback.
Yeah.
There are also a bunch of generalists, which is, I think, where I fall in, who are kind of okay at lots of things, but not awesome at design, right?
Yeah. Come on, man. Design's hard. I mean, design's
hard, right? So, like, if you had me on the team, like, yeah, why don't you do like the client server integration, and we'll have the design guy do design. What I've seen a lot of teams, especially with the whole full stack developer thing, is we'll just throw him to the wolves. We have one Rails developer, he does the whole thing. Great.
Right. Yeah.
And you wonder, wow, why is this guy's, and it could be either way, right? Why are the active records queries so inefficient? Or why does the design look like a paper bag?
Yeah. Well, that would be my fault if it's a design one.
Yeah, well, then I did it.
There was one aspect. It's a pretty good post. It's pretty long, and so I just figured people could read it. But there was one thing that resonated really strongly with me, and when I was dealing with it at the time in my career, I couldn't really vocalize it. Now that I've run my own business for a while, I think if I was going to work for somebody else, this would be something that I would probably take issue with. And he quantifies it as bad habits, and I think that's an interesting way to put it. I don't think I thought of it in terms of habits in the past, but what he says here, and I'll just read a little bit from the post here. He says, I was scrolling down. These are some bad habits that even experienced teams can get into, which will severely affect your end product, and more than any static code checker or development methodology could rescue it from. So here's the first one that really resonated with me, and you kind of touched on this, and I want to just expand a little bit. And this is in terms of your own team, giving excessive importance to estimates, not the client, but your own team. See, this is something that I have really experienced where we obsessed over the estimate, obsessed over it, got all the different quotes from the different hardware vendors, agonized over the hours, tried to figure out where we could pad this or that, obsessed over the estimate, to the point where we lost focus on the end goal, and what the goal really was a great estimate at times. And it really gritted against me when I worked there because I felt like, why can't we find a balance here? And so that's one thing because what happens is it's a cultural thing. So when we brought in new people, we would indoctrinate them into the culture of the estimate. And it would become, sit with us as we do estimates for a while. So you can learn from us. You can protege our estimate process for these next 3 months. And you can learn how to do masterful estimates. And it was just grueling. And especially because I'd had some of my most successful clients were ones where the estimates were really just sort of quick things that were loose, and we had clear communication on what the expectations were and how things could change. There's a bunch of other good points in here, but the other one that I thought was kind of interesting and worth pointing out, I'll just mention it quickly, focusing on poor metrics such as issues closed or commits per day. That always gets me.
Yeah.
That one, especially issues per day, really, really gets me. And then this is the other one that I think is difficult because it's rude to talk about, it's uncomfortable, and it's sort of a hard reality. Good processes can't fix bad people. Talent makes up for any other inefficiency in your team. That's the entire point of favoring smart work over hard work. So much this, so many times.
Yeah, I think so.
I have witnessed the process, the training, all of this will fix, and it had never worked out. There is if you are a small team, if you are a tight group, making sure that everyone on the team is really talented at their particular aspect of the job is exceedingly important. It is the make it or break it difference between being a successful company.
It's not just raw talent, though, right? It's making sure they're in a state mentally, within the organization, project-wise, that they could actually be successful, right? You could have, we could probably get Linus Torvalds, put him in a room with some, C code, and if the code's a mess, or if the work area is distracting and crappy, or if the project manager is pounding him on Slack, being like, sure. Yo, when's the last time you pushed? Yo, what's up?
Right.
The best developer will fail.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I totally agree. So that's why those resonated with me. All right. I think we could probably leave the rest of the post for folks to read at home because it's kind of long and it's kind of great and it's worth reading. But those are a couple of points that got us fired up, and we will have a link to it in the show notes. And it was from Christian M. Maccabrang? That's a good one. I don't know. The dude's got sunglasses, so I like it. So, Mike, after our conversations recently of the Google Home and the other competition on the market, over the holiday, I decided to purchase an Echo Dot. In fact, I decided to purchase 3 Echo Dots.
I'm sorry, Chris. I can't let you do that.
One for the studio, one for my office, and one for the beard to do some development work on. And I then proceeded to hook up all of the things in the studio and automate pretty much the entire hardware in the studio and in my office.
Wow.
Yeah. I've made a video. I made a vlog video about it to just sort of show people how I'm securing it and what I'm doing and what kind of things I can do. And I'll try to put that in the show notes if I remember. Otherwise, youtube.com/Chris Fisher. And so
how is it? Tell me.
I think it is. You know what, Mike? I'll tell you this. Just from like my first impression, when I left the studio the evening after I'd hooked it all up and got everything automated, it only took me an afternoon to get 3 dots set up and to get everything, every smart thing all connected. I missed it when I left. Like, I don't normally, like, it's been a really long time since I got a new piece of technology and missed it when I wasn't around it, because it's, once you actually connect it to hardware and things, it's extremely useful. And so being able to like turn off my window fan or turn on or turn off lights or activate the studio, I can even turn off the mixer right now if I issue the right command. It would ruin the audio for the show, but I've really got this thing set up, and it's really nice. And it's actually gotten smarter recently. It's much more contextually aware. I've gotten 3, 4 contextually deep. For example, if you want to play around with it, you can get into it by asking the Echo, "What's the largest state in the United States?" And then ask the Echo, "What is the population of it?" Or "How many people live there?" Something you can say, "How many people live there?" Not how many people live in Alaska. You can say how many people live there, and it'll answer you. And then you can say things like, "What is the size comparison of Alaska to Texas?" Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But you can say, "What is the size of it compared to Texas?" And it stays with you. For the same thing, you can ask it about Obama. Say, "How old is he? Who is Obama? How old is he?" And things like that. And she can follow along. So my understanding was that wasn't always a thing, that was something that Google Assistant was better at, and that's something that Amazon has more recently gotten better at. Primarily, though, it's a wide range of products. It's unbelievable once you start looking on Amazon how many things integrate with the Dot, or actually just the Echo in general. So I find it to be really compelling. I find it to be actually a really good product. And recently, Amazon announced, or LG, I guess, announced that they were going to ship their own speaker with the Echo technology built in. And there's some watches that are now shipping with Echo built in. There's lots of little devices that are starting to ship with the services.
Don't you feel like I'm keeping my 1,000 batting average of picking the wrong platform?
No, actually. So I want to get there. So by the way, here's one other thing that I think is sort of just maybe a current competitive advantage to the Echo series is they now have a whole line of devices. So they have the standard Echo, which is $179.
Right.
Then they have the Tap, $129, and now they have the Dot for $50. And the Dot has a headphone out jack, or it can connect to a Bluetooth speaker, so you can connect it to a nice big speaker. I happen to have PC speakers already in the studio, so I just connected the Dot to PC speakers, big, nice PC speakers, and upstairs I have it connected to a surround sound soundbar. So I get really great audio out of this tiny little $50 Dot. So I think that's another advantage. You can get in much cheaper to the Echo ecosystem. But I actually wonder if maybe I'm backing the wrong platform. I'll tell you what. There's some big news because today is CES. Well, this week is CES, and today Google and others. In fact, why don't I look it up, because this is kind of a huge story that's breaking today as we're recording the show. So yeah, Google. Okay, you know what? Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna clear a little room. I'm gonna reset my palette. I'm gonna mention DigitalOcean. DigitalOcean.com. Go over to DigitalOcean.com and spin up a rig. Here's what you need to do, though. When you create an account over at DigitalOcean.com, use our promo code that'll give you a $10 credit. That's Coder Digital, one word, lowercase. Just apply it to your account, get a $10 credit. You can get started in less than 55 seconds. You can spin up a rig that's either, super crazy powerful with like 200 gigs of RAM, or just an itsy bitsy little one that'll run a web application, run your personal systems. I run like SyncThing up and BitTorrent Sync and Libre Vault right now on $5 a month droplets. 512 megs of RAM, 20 gigabyte SSD, 1 CPU, and a terabyte of transfer. It's perfect for like these little nodes that I have all over the world. I love it. And then I have a $20 a month system, which gives me, here, check this out. They have the pricing all on their website. It's 3 cents an hour. It gives me 2 gigs of RAM, a 2-core processor, a 40 gigabyte SSD, and 3 terabytes of transfer. I have that thing running Nextcloud and Minecraft server. It's amazing. We also use DigitalOcean to run our streaming system. So I believe those might be on the 15 cents an hour rigs, where we have Satcom 1 and Satcom 2, which redistribute our live stream around the world. We're also using DigitalOcean droplets to facilitate our virtual lug that you hear in Linux Unplugged. That runs on a DigitalOcean droplet. Lots of little infrastructure pieces for us. And that's what's so great. The pricing's low enough that you could just spin up a rig for testing and banging around on an application or trying out something that you don't want to build on your local machine. But the infrastructure is so solid and so fast with SSDs, 40 gigabit E connections to each hypervisors, data centers all over the dang world, the best interface, a great API so we can spin these things up as we need. It's also perfect for permanent infrastructure. And we can scale our storage as we need with our highly available block storage, all SSD backed, and you can get up to 16 terabytes to a droplet. DigitalOcean.com. Use our promo code CODERDIGITAL. That's all one word. You apply it to your account, you get a $10 credit, you support this show, and you can try out that $5 rig I mentioned 2 months absolutely free. DigitalOcean.com. Use the promo code CODERDIGITAL. So today, as we are recording this show, Google is announcing that Google Assistant will be coming to Android TV set-top boxes like mine, and built in, yes, and built in to some TVs. Now, they've made these claims in the past, and it's never materialized when it comes to televisions. But something tells me they might be on the right track this time. So they're going to bring Google Assistant to NVIDIA Shield, which I already have one of those. So it almost makes sense to kind of wait and see how this goes. Can I maybe see if I can use this to automate things in the RV, see if I can use this to ask questions. And then NVIDIA's also announced that they'll be shipping an updated NVIDIA Shield TV. I think they said for $50 that will have always on listening. So that's, yeah.
That's interesting. I'm actually not sure which of these is going to win. I think I'm going to have to pick up an Alexa though.
Yeah, I would play with it. It doesn't feel, I feel like my initial assessment is it might not be as clever as some of the others, but it is. Okay. There's a lot. Amazon has really put a lot into this product, and when you learn how to ask things, because it has this wide range of skills that just anybody can create, and so that means you have to trigger those skills with a certain syntax, and it's hey Dot, ask such and such to do such and such. And then once you learn that syntax, it works perfectly. But it's not maybe super intuitive. But my 7-year-old son picked it up in about 15 minutes, and then he was fine. So I think it's fascinating. It does say here in this article that the NVIDIA Shield will give you automations so you can say things to the assistant like dim the lights. So I may not need to worry about getting an Echo in the RV because I've already got a Shield, and they'll get Google Assistant. But they're going to build it into televisions. They're going to start building this thing into stuff. I don't know.
I'm pretty impressed with how both of these platforms have relatively open developer APIs.
Does the Google Assistant?
It does, yeah. The Google Actions we talked about a couple weeks ago.
Okay, Google Actions, right.
Yep. But it's like the same thing, right? It's all these Node.js style bots running on the server of your choice on DigitalOcean.
I tell you, I was pretty like, what's the point of these things, really? And now that
I was too, but I'm on board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am too. I really enjoy having it. I'll tell you too, like I walk in and I tell it to turn on all of my Office things because I've grouped some of these devices, and without having to put my bag down and my food down yet, all my stuff comes on. My it's just really nice. It's nice to have that, and I have a sort of a plan to sort of track these things and see how much talking they're really doing to the net when they talk and all of that. So
you can Wireshark that bad boy.
Yeah, I'm planning to dig into this a little bit because I think this is a pretty legitimate category. They had, I guess we haven't really talked about this. They had an unbelievable holiday, the Echo. I experienced it firsthand. I decided about 3 days before Christmas that I wanted to get my dad a Dot. Because I know he'd been thinking about getting the full thing, but it wasn't sold totally yet. So right. I thought, $50. I think it was $40 actually at Best Buy. I'll get it for him for Christmas. And I proceeded to call every damn store in the Pacific Northwest that would even I'm talking Kmart, Bed Bath & Beyond, Home Depot, Lowe's, Best Buy. All of them were sold out because they've been selling them in the stores now. All of them had sold out. Every store was sold out. They sold out everywhere. I went into Best Buy and I was kvatzing with the guy in there, and he says, yeah, as soon as they get them in stock, they sell out immediately. They are going nuts over Christmas. So I think I saw one report that they might have sold like 6 million devices or something. I think they did a banner holiday for the Alexa line of cancel.
Yeah, and they were definitely a popular gift idea. In fact, my father-in-law got one. So they're around. I know a few people who got either an Echo or a Dot, right? More Dots. I saw a lot of Dots. I was like,
it's a good price, and it's got a speaker built into it. It's like a laptop speaker, but with the headphone out, or the fact that it can hook up over Bluetooth. You can just reuse an existing speaker. That's just great. I actually put a splitter on mine, so I have mine going to speakers, and then I have another line going to the mixer. So if I every now and then if I want to play around with Alexa on the mixer, I can do that.
I can do that.
So hey, one other thing, just before we go, just to sort of officially bookend our. Oh yeah.
Oh, I have two other things.
Oh, you do? Oh, okay. I have like a bookender for our first 2017 episode. So do your other things before I do the bookender.
Okay, let me do it. So Chris, I got rid of the office.
What? What do you mean?
I'm back at home.
So you have people working with you at home?
One guy and everybody else is remote.
That was a big move.
Big move. I did it on Christmas Day.
No way.
Sent the email terminating the lease. Yep.
No way. So did something push you over?
Yeah, in fact, it did. So there has been a water issue at the building I was in, and it just smells mildewy. And I was thinking, I'm spending I think it was like $1,500 a month or all in, right, with all the crap you have to have for an office. And I just don't need that.
Yeah.
Like, it was getting ridiculous. And it's a fixed cost every month. And, a lot of my competitors just don't have that cost, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And are you sitting down?
I just resat just to be double sitting.
I bought a Surface Studio. No, I'm kidding.
What? Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I'm not giving Satya $3,000. But I'm dual booting the lemur.
You did do the Windows 10 experiment, didn't you?
I did.
How's it going?
Well, it's going okay. Now let me tell you why I'm dual booting it. I went into a project as an Android developer, and somehow I'm developing a universal Windows app right now. For the next 3 months, I'm living in Visual Studio.
Oh, man. That just came like...
out of nowhere.
Boom. That's funny.
Out of nowhere. It was like a random thing. And let me tell you something. Civilization 6 has never been better.
Oh, yeah, I know. Every now and then when I've had to install Windows for something, like, all right, well, I'll install Steam just for a minute.
Yeah, just for a minute. 4 hours. But my daily driver is still Ubuntu 16.10.
Yeah.
Only when I'm working on this project, which is most of the time right now.
Well,
and my own Windows partition.
To be fair, my sin is my daily driver is Arch Linux on the MacBook Pro 2013. But I do boot into Final Cut OS about once a day for a few hours of work. At least once a day.
Yeah, I was hoping that UWP apps could be done in Project Rider from JetBrains.
Dude.
But apparently not yet is the answer I got.
That'll be the day. That'll be the day.
Well, because really they're just C# and XAML apps, right? I mean, that's all they are. But
I wonder what the development environment will be when Microsoft launches their Home Assistant. I wonder how that's going to work.
It's going to be the bot framework.
Yeah?
Oh, for sure. Why not?
Yeah, that would make the most sense. It better be, really. Otherwise, what the hell is a bot framework? All right. Are you ready for my bookender?
Bookend it.
Wow. By the way, congrats on the move. I think that's a good move. I think that's a good call.
Yeah, we'll talk about it more next week, but I think it's just the way of the future.
Yeah, we have the studio here for what we do. It is so nice to have static equipment set up and ready to record with sound insulation and good power and all those things, which are just gigabit networking and all these things, which are just so essential for what we do. But every now and then I fantasize about packing it all up somewhere and just doing all of the shows from the road on the RV. And we've gotten close, although not quite, to being able to quote unquote cloudify our entire production pipeline with just a few little bits. So even for something like we do, which is in the past, having a physical studio has been fundamentally important. things change. Things change.
Things change.
All right. Go ahead.
No, kill it. Go ahead.
According to Apple, they've shattered everyone's records. Well, their own records for New Year's Day. 240 million in customer purchases makes January 1st, 2017 the Apple Store's busiest day. And app developers earned $20 billion in 2016, up 40% from 2015. Of course, those developers are all like those people that sit at the top of the charts milking you for everything you do, like Clash Royale.
Pokemon Go. Yeah. My wife's good for about $15 to $20 a week.
Yeah. But
I would love to see
big number.
The median distribution. That would be.
Can you guess what the number one download app was on Christmas and New Year's Day?
Mario.
Yeah, it was Super Mario Run.
Yeah.
Super Mario Run. I've been playing the hell out of it.
I've been playing the hell out of it too. Yeah.
My girlfriend, he seems to delight in going through the world levels and beating my high scores at all of them, and then I have to go back and replay them. So it's actually turned out the casual competition that you can create by seeing each other's scores or by doing the rally is just fun enough that when you have 3 or 4 of you playing, it's actually pretty addictive, and it actually does.
It's a good like waiting room, lobby, bathroom sort of game.
Yeah, yeah, and it also scratches the nostalgia itch a little bit. So,
a little bit.
The top subscription apps were Netflix, HBO, and Tinder. Oh, also MLB.
So, Chris, are we going to swipe left? Which one is left? Hang on.
Is that how we end the show now? Is we swipe left? Is that
I think it's more of a grinder thing we're thinking of, but ooh.
All right. Well, I'll say one last thing in 2017 while we're just talking about these types of devices, just in this category. I'm curious to see where Samsung goes. If we'll ever see another Note again.
Well, for the love of God, I hope not. But there's the Samsung Chromebook Pro does look interesting. We didn't talk about today. It's there. Have you seen this?
No. Is this a CES thing?
Yes, it is. I don't have the details yet, but I'm actually going to try to find out. It seems like remember that what was it, Chrome Dromeda or Android Dromeda thing where it was going to be like Android Chrome hybrid devices? This appears like it might be that. It's Chrome.
That scares me.
It runs native. It runs Android apps natively, and I don't think what I read is that it's not the like virtualized Android apps that you could do on a Chromebook. It's more like Android apps natively. I know that sounds stupid. But it has a pencil, like it is literally like an iPad Pro, or visually more like a Surface Pro.
And for the double bookender, Amazon says today that the Alexa now has 7,000 skills, up from 3,000 in September, and 5.4 thousand in December. So 2,000. That's a lot.
Very special set of skills.
That's a lot. She has a lot of very special set of skills. All right, Mr. Dominic.
All right, Chris.
Where should people find you when you're laying in bed, coughing and tweeting and whatnot throughout the week?
Likely Jersey Shore Hospital. Or DominicM.com or Buccaneer.io.
Oh, you can find me at ChrisLAS if you're curious about the Echo Dot setup we have here. Go to youtube.com/Chris Fisher. I might also have video there, a little behind the scenes from today's Coder Radio, and TechSnap 300 this week, which is a big episode. Also, love to have you join us live next week. We'll probably be back on our regular Monday time slot, but you can always find out when we're going to be live at jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar. You join us at jblive.tv. And last but not least, please visit coderradio.reddit.com, give us some feedback, and submit some links for the show. Thanks for joining us. See you right back here next week.